What's going on, folks? This is Mr. Colion Noir, and this is the Sig Sauer P239 chambered in 9mm. I don't know. There's just something about this Sig Sauer P239 that I just like it. I don't have a use for it. I don't need it. It's just kind of one of those firearms that you just want. Like if I was in the jungle or something, I would probably take this firearm for no other reason than I just feel it fits the scenery and the locale. But that's beside the point. This is a heavy, as far as the way the gun looks, it's a very heavy duty looking gun. There are levers and latches all over the place, and considering it's not a polymer frame weapon, with the steel frame and steel slide, it looks real heavy duty, and I like that about this gun. It makes you feel like you're firing something a lot more heavier, a bigger caliber than you really are. Not that the 9mm is ineffective by any stretch of the imagination, but I really do love the way this gun looks. All right, now as far as ergonomics, this is where this and most other SIGs really shine. It looks simple enough. Like there aren't any fancy textures on the frame. You know, it's pretty consistent front and back, and nothing's really aggressive. But man, when I really pick up this gun, it feels lovely. Granted, you don't have as high a bore access as you would on a Glock, but it feels beautiful. It feels perfect, almost. That's a little top heavy, just because you don't, like I said, you don't have as high a bore access as you would typically normally have. But even though the frame is a little bit smaller, it feels good in your hand. It really does. And it makes you confident enough to know that you can manipulate and really run this gun hard. So as far as ergonomics are concerned, this is grade A. Without it, and it does it effortlessly. That's the beautiful thing about it. It doesn't scream or shout all over the place about it like the P230 does, even though it is an exceptionally ergonomical gun. This gun, it doesn't. It just kind of is really quiet about it, and when you pick it up and you really hold it, it works. The ergonomics just really work on this hand. Another thing about this gun that I absolutely love is the trigger. The trigger on this thing makes this gun a joy to not only shoot but to dry fire, and the reason is because the trigger is, you get such a positive response on the trigger. That's just like, it just bounces, and I really love that. And not only that, put it in single action, get a little creep, it just drops with just the slightest, just with ease. It's beautiful. I love it to death. And the only complaint I have about this trigger is it's kind of hard to stage it. And I know with work and with practice, once you get used to the gun, I'll learn exactly when to stage it. But it's kind of hard. So even when I try to stage it and kind of hold it right before the break point, it's really hard to do because the trigger doesn't stage at all. So you can't. You're really literally just kind of. That's about as far as you want to go. Like that. And there you have it. So. Besides that, the trigger makes this gun a joy to dry fire and shoot. I like standard, hardcore, typical Sig Sauer handgun. You have your takedown lever. You also have your decocker here, and then you also have your slide release towards the back. And that's pretty much it. These are outfitted with night sights, your 3-dot night sights. And you have a tailless hammer, which kind of recessed in, but doesn't really sit back all the way. It kind of hangs out there a little bit, so that gives you the ability to manually cock it and bring it down in single action mode. I'm laughing because I really like this gun. I really do. I just have no use for it whatsoever. All right, now to my point of concern about this firearm. Now, I know all guns don't need to be concealable, but this is a relatively compact gun, especially for a Sig Sauer. And unfortunately, this gun doesn't really lend itself for concealed carry. Maybe as a sidearm for an officer, or a sidearm for a soldier or Marine or something to that effect, then okay, that could probably work. But quite frankly, this gun is too heavy, and it's just too heavy. Now, size-wise, it's great. It's not too big, not too small, perfect, kind of like a 19. But unlike the 19, you only get 8 rounds, and that's a 9mm. And as we all know, I'm a big proponent of capacity, and in a gun this size, and the trade-off you have to make with the weight, and considering how I can get the same firearm almost in the same size with the same concealability, this gun just does not cut it as a concealed carry weapon, in my book. Now, for some others, this may be perfect, but to me, I don't think this gun makes sense for me to conceal carry because I only get 8 rounds, and then have to contend with how heavy it is. And we're not even talking about how heavy it is when it's loaded. So in that regard, I have to say that concealability is really this gun's drawback, especially only because of what it's meant to do. Compared to any other gun, full-size gun or some of that nature, yeah, it's concealable. It's small, it's a smaller SIG, and it's still frame perfect. You know, it handles the recoil, but it doesn't recoil whatsoever. But because it is in the class that it is in, and with the guns that it has to contend with, this gun loses out in terms of concealability. So in short, I have an emotional attachment to this gun, and I don't know why. From the very first day I picked it up, got my hands on it, I loved it. I really did. And I'm not really a SIG man, to be honest with you. I'm not really big on hammers, but I really do like this gun, and I'm really seriously contemplating on purchasing this firearm because I really like it a lot. Even though technically I have no use for it. And like I said, part of the reason why my Glock 26 is a lot smaller, a lot more concealable. Not only that, I get 10 rounds in a smaller package. You can't beat that. So from a functional standpoint, I have no real true reason for buying it because this serves all the purpose I need it to and handles the recoil, does everything I need it to do. But I do have an emotional attachment to this gun. It's cool. If it was in a 40, 45, 357 SIG, I'd be all over it. As you can see, I can't stop pulling the trigger because I love the trigger so much. But if it had been in any other caliber, I would have jumped on it. But considering it's in a 9, for me, not so much. I know people love this gun, and so do I. But I can't really make any sense to purchase it in my mind. All right, folks.